Attention! What you are about to watch contains extremely disturbing information about crimes against children. Nathaniel Bar-Jonah was accused of kidnapping, abuse, and possibly cannibalism involving minors. This true story exposes shocking flaws in the justice system that allowed a predator to remain free for decades. If you have the stomach for it, stay until the end to understand how these horrible crimes could have happened. Nathaniel Bar-Jonah, born David Paul Brown on February 15, 1957 in Worcester, Massachusetts, had a childhood marked by problems that foreshadowed his criminal future. The son of Philip and Tyra Brown, he was the youngest of 3 children. His life began turbulently. At just 3 weeks old, Nathaniel developed hydrocephalus, a condition that causes fluid buildup in the brain, potentially leading to brain damage. Although he recovered from this initial condition, his early years were characterized by problematic behaviors. At 3 years old, the Brown family moved to Lantana, Florida. His father, Philip, worked as a heavy equipment mechanic at a local construction company and was known to be a strict disciplinarian. Nathaniel was not an easy child to handle, demonstrating disturbing tendencies from an early age. He developed a habit of stealing from his siblings and other children, a behavior his father interpreted as kleptomania, a mental health disorder that generates an uncontrollable impulse to steal. Philip Brown, concerned about his son's behavior and fearing it could be related to his sexual orientation, often disciplined Nathaniel with a thick leather belt. This severe approach, however, did not seem to have the desired effect on young Nathaniel's behavior. As he grew, Nathaniel exhibited increasingly disturbing behaviors. He developed a habit of picking at his own skin until scabs formed, which he then chewed until they bled. On some occasions, he would even ingest pieces of his own skin. This behavior alarmed his schoolmates and resulted in frequent calls to his mother, who surprisingly did not show great concern in the face of these unusual manifestations. In 1964, after the family's return to Worcester, the first known serious incident involving Nathaniel occurred. At just 7 years old, he lured a girl into his house's basement with the promise of showing her an Ouija board he had received as a gift. In the basement, Nathaniel tried to suffocate the girl with the board itself. The victim's screams alerted Nathaniel's mother, who intervened before anything worse could happen. Surprisingly, the incident was hushed up and never discussed again, establishing a pattern of neglect that would persist throughout his life. As Nathaniel entered adolescence, his criminal tendencies became more elaborate and dangerous. In 1973, at 16 years old, he demonstrated for the first time his tactic of posing as authority figures to attract children. Wearing a jacket similar to a police uniform, Nathaniel tried to lure 2 boys to a cemetery in Webster, Massachusetts. He offered the boys $20 and a surprise if they accompanied him. Fortunately, the boys refused the offer, finding Nathaniel suspicious. The boys' mother, when informed of the incident, chose not to press charges, believing that Nathaniel needed psychiatric help instead of criminal punishment, a decision that would later prove tragic. Nathaniel's first serious crime occurred in March 1975, when he was 18 years old and about to drop out of high school. Dressed as a police officer, he spotted and kidnapped Richard O'Connor, a boy walking to school. An attentive neighbor witnessed the abduction and alerted the police. A police car located Nathaniel's vehicle in a parking lot. When the officers ordered Nathaniel to get out of the car, they found Richard in critical condition, bloodied, on the brink of death, having defecated and urinated on himself due to the trauma. Surprisingly, despite the gravity of this crime, Nathaniel was released on probation. This questionable judicial decision allowed him to continue his criminal activities. Shortly after, in Hartford, Connecticut, he again posed as a police officer and kidnapped a girl. During the attack, the victim began to have seizures and vomit, which led Nathaniel to abandon her on the sidewalk. An attentive witness noted down the car's license plate, which led to his arrest. However, due to communication failures between jurisdictions, information about this arrest never reached the officer responsible for Nathaniel's probation. Nathaniel's most notorious and violent crime occurred on September 24, 1977. On this day, he spotted 2 boys leaving a movie theater in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. Claiming to be an undercover FBI agent, Nathaniel managed to convince the boys to get into his car. He took them to an isolated area where he handcuffed them and began to brutally assault them. Nathaniel, who at the time weighed about 375 pounds, repeatedly jumped on one of the boys' chest, stopping only when he believed he had killed him. He then abandoned that boy on the roadside and left with the other still alive in the trunk of his car. Fortunately, the abandoned boy regained consciousness and managed to find help. Within about an hour, the police located Nathaniel and rescued the second boy from the trunk. For this heinous crime, Nathaniel finally received a significant sentence, 18 to 20 years at the Massachusetts Correctional Institution, Concord. During his stay in prison, Nathaniel was assigned to a psychologist. The therapy sessions revealed the depth of his mental disorders, with Nathaniel openly discussing his disturbing fantasies that involved murder and cannibalism. Due to the extremely disturbing nature of his sexual fantasies, he was transferred to Bridgewater State Hospital, a specialized treatment center for sexually dangerous criminals. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. On March 22, 1984, while still incarcerated, he made the decision to legally change his name to Nathaniel Benjamin Levi Bar-Jonah. He offered several explanations for this change, including the desire to experience discrimination as a Jew and to assert a Jewish identity, although his ancestry was Scandinavian. This name change marked the beginning of a new phase in his criminal life. Surprisingly, despite warnings from psychiatrists that Bar-Jonah still fantasized about kidnapping and murdering, he was released on July 12, 1991. This controversial decision was made after a parole hearing where two psychologists hired by the defense testified that he was no longer a threat to society. The state of Massachusetts failed to present sufficient evidence or testimony to prove that Bar-Jonah remained dangerous. Less than a month after his release, on August 9, 1991, Bar-Jonah attacked again, proving that the psychiatrist's concerns were well-founded. He found a boy alone in a car in front of a post office in Oxford, Massachusetts. Bar-Jonah, now weighing about 300 pounds after his time in prison, entered the vehicle and sat on the boy's chest. The boy's mother, realizing the danger, ran towards the car, causing Bar-Jonah to flee the scene. After this incident, Bar-Jonah made a surprisingly lenient plea deal. In exchange for a guilty plea to assault and battery, the Worcester County District Attorney offered a probation period of just 2 years. The most significant condition of this agreement was that Bar-Jonah should move to Great Falls, Montana, where his mother resided. This decision to send a known sex offender to another jurisdiction, effectively exporting the problem, would prove catastrophic in the years to come. The most infamous case involving Bar-Jonah occurred on February 6, 1996, in Great Falls, Montana. On that day, Zachary Ramsay, a 10-year-old boy affectionately known as Zach, disappeared on his way to school. Zach was described as a carefree and sociable child, popular among teachers, parents, and friends due to his high spirits. On that fateful Tuesday morning, the winter cold didn't prevent Zach and his friends from following their usual routine. Zach left home wearing a blue denim jacket with green sleeves, a blue football shirt with his last name printed on the back in golden letters, washed jeans, and black high-top sneakers. He almost forgot his lunchbox, a detail that would later be remembered with regret by his family. Zach's plan was to meet his friends outside the school to chat before the bell rang, as they did every day. His school, Whittier Elementary, was just 6 blocks from his home on 4004 North Street. To shorten the route, Zach used to pass through an alley. Several witnesses reported seeing Zach that morning. A family living in an apartment in the alley said they saw a white 4-door car that almost ran over the boy. Another witness, around 7:45, saw Zach crying, followed by an obese adult man. A crucial detail came from a witness who saw a man in a navy blue police jacket taking out the trash near where Zach was last seen. This man was later identified as Nathaniel Bar-Jonah. Zach's disappearance triggered one of the largest search operations in Great Falls history. Hundreds of volunteers, police officers, and rescue teams joined the search, which initially focused on the area around the 400 block of 4th Street North, where Zach was last seen. During the search, disturbing evidence was found. A pair of jeans and a blue denim jacket, believed to belong to Zach, were discovered in a trash can near the alley where he disappeared. These discoveries increased suspicions that something terrible had happened to the boy. Detective Bill Bellucci was assigned to the case and quickly suspected Bar-Jonah. However, he faced significant obstacles in obtaining search warrants, a frustration that would persist for years. Bellucci's opportunity finally came on December 13, 1999, almost 4 years after Zach's disappearance. On this day, he saw Bar-Jonah near an elementary school for the third time in a week. Bar-Jonah was wearing a dark blue jacket, knit cap, and carrying pepper spray, a toy gun, and a badge. All items consistent with his history of posing as a police officer to lure children. On December 15, 1999, the police finally obtained a search warrant for Bar-Jonah's house. What they found was beyond their worst expectations. The residence was described by Detective Bellucci as a house of horrors, dark, dirty, and with an unforgettable smell. Investigators discovered more than 3,500 photographs of children, many of whom appeared to be in captive situations or possibly dead. Some of the faces in the photos were of children living in Great Falls, including children of local police officers. In addition to the photos, they found dozens of notebooks containing what initially appeared to be nonsensical jargon, but was later deciphered as coded messages. The FBI was called in to decipher the codes in the diaries, revealing extremely disturbing contents. The notebooks contained the names of thousands of children, some of whom were known victims of sexual abuse by Bar-Jonah. There were detailed passages about how he prepared his victims and what he did with them, apparently to relive the abuses through writing. Even more shocking, there were entries about cooking and eating human flesh. A particularly alarming discovery was a list titled Webster Lake, which contained 27 names of alleged victims that Bar-Jonah would have assaulted between 1963 and 1977. This list included the name of the girl he had strangled at 6 years old and the names of the 3 boys he assaulted in the 70s. Zachary Ramsay's name was at the end of the list, followed by the word died. The physical evidence found in Bar-Jonah's house was equally disturbing. At his bedside, there was a plywood board that, although washed with bleach, still had dark stains and cuts that appeared to have been made with a knife. The police suspected that this board could have been used to tie up and dismember victims. In the kitchen, investigators found a meat grinder that contained what appeared to be human hair. Luminol tests revealed that the word TAA had been written on the floor with blood, which the police tentatively linked to James Tedda, a 15-year-old boy who had disappeared in August 1973 and whose body was found 2 days later in New Hampshire. Excavations in the garage of a former residence of Bar-Jonah revealed 21 fragments of human bones belonging to a boy between 8 and 13 years old. DNA analysis showed that the bones and hair found belonged to 2 different African-American men, neither of whom was Zachary Ramsay. These remains were never identified. The investigations also revealed disturbing details about Bar-Jonah's behavior in the days following Zachary's disappearance. Neighbors reported that Bar-Jonah held barbecues where he served deer burgers with a strange taste. He claimed to have hunted, slaughtered, and wrapped the meat personally. However, Bar-Jonah did not have a hunting license or weapon, and his credit card records showed that he stopped buying food for a month after Zachary's disappearance. The investigation also revealed that Bar-Jonah did not go to work on February 6, 1996, the day Zachary disappeared. Additionally, in the days leading up to the disappearance, Bar-Jonah's mother was out of town, accompanying her other son to a funeral in another city. This left Bar-Jonah alone with access to the family car, a whitish 1978 Toyota Corolla 4-door, which matched the description of the vehicle seen by witnesses on the day of Zachary's disappearance. Despite significant circumstantial evidence linking Bar-Jonah to Zachary Ramsay's disappearance, the case took an unexpected turn. Zachary's mother, Rachel Howard, refused to believe that her son was dead. Convinced by a psychic that Zachary was alive and living in Italy, she not only denied the possibility of Bar-Jonah having killed her son, but even threatened to testify in his defense if he was accused of the murder. This situation put prosecutors in a difficult position, with the mother of the alleged murder victim stating that the suspect was not the killer. The case was at serious risk of being undermined in court. Consequently, prosecutors were forced to withdraw the charges related to Zachary Ramsay's disappearance. However, the investigations triggered by Zachary's case led to the discovery of other victims of Bar-Jonah. Two of these victims were brothers, a 15-year-old boy and an 8-year-old boy, who lived in the same building as Bar-Jonah. The older boy confirmed having been sexually assaulted by Bar-Jonah, while the younger one was hung from a ceiling fan until he lost consciousness. In addition to these cases, the police investigated possible connections between Bar-Jonah and other unsolved disappearances and murders. One of these cases was that of Janice Pocket, a 7-year-old girl who disappeared in 1973 in Tolland, Connecticut, when Bar-Jonah lived nearby. Although Bar-Jonah was only 14 at the time, and most of his known attacks were against boys, the presence of a girl on the Lake Webster list suggested that he did not exclusively target boys, especially when he was younger. Another case investigated was the disappearance of James Tedda, 15 years old, in August 1973. The word TAA, found written in blood on the floor of Bar-Jonah's garage, was possibly linked to this case. Tedda's body was found in a forest in New Hampshire 2 days after his disappearance. The police also investigated Bar-Jonah's possible connection to the disappearance of Andrew Amato, 4 years old, who went missing near his family's trailer in Webster on September 3, 1976. At the time, Bar-Jonah was 17 years old, lived nearby, and was on probation for assaulting an 8-year-old boy. Another case that attracted investigators' attention was the disappearance of Amanda Gallion, 14 years old, on October 13, 1997 in Gillette, Wyoming. Although Gillette was about 350 miles from Great Falls, the police found something in Bar-Jonah's house that led them to contact Gillette authorities to investigate him as a person of interest in this case. Despite numerous suspicions and circumstantial evidence, Bar-Jonah ended up being prosecuted only for the crimes against the children who lived in his building in Great Falls. In February 2002, he was found guilty and sentenced to 130 years in prison without the possibility of parole for kidnapping, aggravated assault, and sexual assault of minors. Bar-Jonah died in prison on April 13, 2008, at 51 years old due to a heart attack. He never confessed to the murder of Zachary Ramsay or revealed the boy's whereabouts. In 2011, a judge declared Zachary legally dead, although his body was never found. The case of Nathaniel Bar-Jonah exposed serious flaws in the American judicial system, particularly in communication between different jurisdictions and in the treatment of repeat sex offenders. The decision to allow him to move to Montana after his crimes in Massachusetts, without adequate follow-up, proved to be disastrous. Furthermore, the case raised questions about how to deal with individuals who exhibit violent behaviors since childhood. Attempts to treat and rehabilitate Bar-Jonah clearly failed, highlighting the need for more effective approaches to identify and intervene in cases of young people with violent tendencies. What did you think of this disturbing story? If you found the content impactful, please subscribe to the channel and leave your comment about the case. Your opinion is important to us. Until the next video.